Diane, Cindy, Michael Glotz. We have quorum. Item number 2, consider approval of the meeting minutes of the Community Development Committee meeting held on May 22nd, 2019.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Item number 3, Community Development Developer Kimberly Clark to discuss the foundation-only permit.
Thank you. So we're here today because staff has been receiving increased requests to issue foundation-only permits on some of our larger scale projects here in town that have been entitled through zoning but have not submitted their full construction documents for permit issuance. So our Tinley Park ordinance does allow the opportunity for the building official to grant a foundation-only permit, but there's little to no guidance on what are those parameters as to what would be needed in order to issue those types of permits. What securities might be needed in order to ensure that the village is protected from any phased development process. And so therefore, we thought it warranted us to come forth and look at creating a policy, because we're also comprehensively looking at our building code and are looking toward making updates to that, which is presenting us an opportunity to address this issue related to foundation-only permits. So we're looking for some viewpoints on this issue. The adoption of this policy, we believe, will help increase efficiencies within the department and also hopefully improve customer service. So based on discussions with staff, foundation-only permits have been issued on a case-by-case basis at the discretion of the building official. In speaking with other building officials throughout the area, the issuance of foundation-only permits are not preferred and are typically handled on a case-by-case basis. It's understandable that weather in our area can cause projects to get delayed severely, and or there's other timing issues due to other government agencies' approvals that the size of the project, it warrants helping getting them off the ground by doing a foundation-only permit, knowing that the remaining documents would be following shortly. So it's important to note that there are some significance of allowing these types of projects to move forward. But again, we're looking for some policy to be adopted so that we can ensure that developers know exactly what's expected of them and that we're reducing any risk that the village may take in doing so. Issuance of these permits necessarily do require that CDs, which are the construction documents, are to be far along enough that we're pretty sure that nothing significant is going to happen with the construction that would cause any issues with the foundation being poured prematurely. So that would be, one expectation in moving forward. In addition, final engineering must be completed, or there are risks that changes may impact the footprint of the building. In essence, most communities that we surveyed felt there should be some specific circumstances that would warrant this issuance. In your packet, I provided you some of our immediate neighbors and their policy on this. Orland Park is the only community that I found that actually has a written policy on this, and I provided this in the back of your packet. So again, based on the above, it is kind of a rare situation, but it is on a case-by-case basis. If it is the intent of the village board to allow a foundation-only permit, staff is requesting a policy be adopted to specify what projects will be eligible and what documents are to be required. The following issuance will be addressed in a final policy. Which projects are eligible for foundation-only permit, commercial only versus residential, or all of the above? What securities are required to protect the village? Letter of credit for removal of any foundation, in addition to any public improvements if a project does not move forward. Under what conditions should a foundation-only permit be issued? Is it a weather constraint? The size of the project, the significance to the community, longer approval process based on its location and its type of development, or any other circumstances. We would have a full list of submittal requirements, department review process, and village board approval. Staff is recommending all foundation-only permits be reviewed either by a village board or a committee, or both, to ensure that all qualifications are met and that we have the ability to, for whatever reason, deny if we feel necessary. So this policy is something we're looking for direction on, and if it's the direction of this committee, we'd like to formalize this policy and create an associated form that would be submitted and to present this at the village board at the July 2nd meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
questions?
Has this come up yet for us? The
Yeah.
foundation only, have we had problems?
Yes, we've had some requests for foundation-only permits. We don't have a direct policy, so there was a lot of back and forth on what we needed. You know, had some concerns about securities, and so we were kind of being challenged as, you know, where does it say I have to do this? Thankfully, we have not, currently, since I've been here, issued one, but we do have an older subdivision, I believe called Misty Pines, is a subdivision where we've had a foundation out for 10 years that was constructed and never was finished. And so that is one that comes up a lot sometimes with our residents that point that one out as an eyesore. And there's always some discussions on that. Thankfully, we have a developer who might be taking that subdivision back over, but they're gonna have to rip that foundation out because it no longer complies with code. But we have some of the other bigger projects in downtown that might be looking for some type of ability to move forward on a phased process.
Is Misty Pines in a TIF district?
I don't believe so, no. No,
Sound-
it's just a.
Did they have a
subdivision.
letter of credit on that? How effective is that going to be for us moving forward?
Well, the way we write the letter of credit, one way that we're looking at doing it is that, it doesn't have an expiration date, that it doesn't automatically have to be notified for us to renew it. So I think that's one avenue that we're doing with one that is pretty strong, so that, they can't claim that they notified us and we never got the notice and then the letter of credit expires. So we're gonna be looking to have some good language in those.
Yeah, I think it's kind of bizarre that you'd want to pour the foundation myself, but I don't know what everyone else thinks about that.
Sometimes it's tied to the financing,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and they
Yeah.
get a certain stage done to get their construction financing. And the CDs are the most expensive part of doing a lot of those projects besides final engineering. And so they want to show that they moved forward, but, I mean,
No.
Kimberly and I have talked about this, it's rarely a good idea.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah,
I,
that's
my
what I
impression also.
Yeah.
So you guys need some help, obviously, with this.
So I don't know about you guys, but I don't think we should use it at all for residential. Like, not even make it an option for the
I'd
foundation
agree.
only.
And that's what Orland Park only did, was residential, it looks like on here.
No, yeah.
It says here they did 20 foundation permits for constructing homes.
Oh, New Lenox, no, so New Lenox does not do foundation-only permits, but they're working with a senior development that in their annexation agreement, they negotiated that because there's a lot of roadway improvements they have to do. So that's the only town that negotiated that specifically.
But we were talking about doing the size parameter on it before we even consider it.
Right, I think there has to be some warrant of the scope and scale of it, and also I think having a weather parameter, asking for a foundation only in July when they have plenty of time to get their construction documents in, the weather's good. Where you tend to see it sometimes is right where fall is coming, their CDs are nearly done, they wanna get that foundation in so they can start framing over into the winter. That might be sometimes where you see that foundation only permit really be applicable.
Is it better to leave that out and just have it come to a committee?
Just that sometimes we think of significance, the village
Right.
board might have a real high-profile project, so you want to
Yeah.
give the opportunity, that's why
We-
Kimberly was suggesting make sure it comes to you guys.
Committee and a village board
Mhm.
approval.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
And timing, you wouldn't wanna see this, sitting out there for 10 years. I mean, there should be some timing.
That
And
should
that'd
be
be
in the security, right?
The security that we could put parameters in that they
Right.
don't, if they don't act on it, we can make them remove
Remove
that
it.
foundation. And that's what we don't have now.
I mean, what you wanna see is a policy put in? I mean, do you wanna have a policy or?
Yes, it'd be preferred that we have a policy that, moving forward, the village board is behind. That way we can direct our developers with some certainty that, you know, here's what you can do to
Right.
get this moving forward. Because right now, we're kind of being challenged for that.
Mhm. Any other questions?
So it's no foundation policy or make a policy. We're going one way or the other here?
Well, I think what staff is asking for is a motion to direct them to formalize it for the July 2nd meeting.
So you guys are in agreement with allowing it to go proceed with people doing this, as opposed to the other communities that say do not have one at all?
You
I think we should make it strict, and it should come to the committee and the board.
Yeah, I think we-
Well, definitely both committee and board.
So get it in on the books that we don't permit them, and then it's case-by-case basis. Is,
And we could have some parameters on how you would review those case-by-case basis.
You may have a project that you're really supportive of
Mhm.
as a village board, and so you want to give yourself a little flexibility. That's why prohibiting them full stop won't give you that, but.
And in talking to, like I said, Joliet, they said it's very typical with these very time-sensitive projects that they do that. But they must have some more consensus on how they address those with the department.
Probably.
They use it a lot too for the winter,
Mhm.
because some municipalities like Frankfurt only let you pour concrete at a certain temperature if it gets below. You can't strip the walls, you can't do anything.
Mhm.
So a lot of it's based on the weather as well.
Mhm.
so do you have any other objections to it?
No, I don't have any objections to it. I just want to know which way the three of us would like to go here.
So I'd like to see something on the books for July 2nd.
So you're down for doing something, but not, a no foundation.
Pardon me?
Okay. I was kind of leaning towards the do not issue them.
At all.
Mhm.
No, I'd rather give us the opportunity to let it come to a
Super.
committee.
I mean, it could come back to committee if you'd prefer to have the whole policy in front of you
Right.
Do you wanna
before
do that?
taking it to July 2nd. I mean, I threw July 2nd out there, but if you feel this committee would like to have another chance to look at that policy and be solid on it.
Yeah, is it time sensitive, like the foundation itself?
Yeah.
Shouldn't be right now in the summer.
I don't think they're gonna be ready.
So you have enough guidance, Kimberly?
Sure.
And then we'll see what we come up with by then, and if we need to get it to the cow, we can, otherwise we'll wait until, what's the 16th is the next one?
The next CD committee?
Next,
The board meeting. I
The
think you
next,
mean.
July 16th is a cow, I believe.
Well, there's a July, so you want to put on July 2nd, Kyle? Or-
Yeah.
Why do we have a cow July 2nd?
Well, there's a board meeting, and
Mhm.
Yeah, there's a whole board meeting.
I know trustee, the chair of Cal, like to have.
but we can wait until the 16th on this. I don't
No, I'm
think this
just
is as
confused about the
time-sensitive.
process. Seems like it's,
This
board
would be-
meeting, committee of the whole shouldn't be like on the same day either way, but
No.
irregardless, I'll make the motion to put it on for the July 2nd if you want to have a formal policy, that's fine.
Good.
Second.
Second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Item number 4, Economic Development Manager Patrick Hoban to discuss Advis Springfort Hall reclassification.
Thank you, Trustee Mueller. Pretty excited about this one. This is for Springfort Hall, which we all know has been vacant since 2011. And we were approached by Advis. They're healthcare consultants. Lindeen Brick and her husband Myron came into ECC and told us about their company. Myron is here tonight. What they're planning on doing is investing $500,000 in the vacant 8,000 square foot former Springfort Hall, or still Springford Hall. They're moving their headquarters actually from Mokina, and what's really great about this is it's 40 employees, 35 full-time, 5 part-time. They are consultants, and I do know some consultants myself, and they like to eat out a lot. So this will be good for our, the ripple effect in our downtown. What they're asking for is a Class 7 reclassification. The reason it's a 7 is because it's under $2 million. And back in 2016, the property taxes were $91,000. I put 2016 because it shows where the assessment had spiked. I went ahead and reran those numbers for 2018. The assessment should be $851,000 for the property, but because it's vacant, it's only assessed at $193,000, which means the taxes right now are about $20,000. So as an example, in 2018, with the current tax structure, if it was full, it would have about a tax bill of $87,000. This reclassification would reduce that 60%, so it'd be down to $35,000. The reason that we do these, it's a but-for, it's to combat the Cook County tax situation, and actually levels the playing field with what Will County has if they're going to open up shop there. When it comes to incentive policy, it meets the standard of creating over 25 jobs outlined in Section B1, and also due to its location, it is a targeted area in the Legacy District and New Bremen TIF. When it comes to our strategic plan, long-term complex tier number 1 and econ dev strategy number 4, to see ongoing downtown development and reinvestment continue. As I mentioned earlier, this has gone through the ECC, a unanimous vote. They were very excited about this. The goal is to move this forward, with your permission, to the July 2nd village board meeting, and hopefully get these guys ready to open up shop, I think around January 1st. And like I said, Myron's here. If you have any questions, or if you'd like to come up and tell us a little bit about what you guys do, great.
And I'd be happy to answer any questions anyone has, but as the gentleman stated, we are a healthcare consulting firm, been active here locally for 30 years. We work nationwide. I think at the moment we have contracts pending 42 states. So we stay busy and have a national reputation. But for the consideration that you guys are showing us, we would still be looking in Will County for space that I don't think is nearly as ideal for us as what this is going to turn out to be. We're very impressed with Tinley Park. We're impressed with how we've been welcomed here and the support that's been shown us. So with that, we're hopeful that everything will continue to move at pace. Things look good with the bank and so on. All that's in order. So hopefully we'll become proud citizens of Tinley Park here in short order. And as I said, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer to the best of my ability.
Was this the only incentive you were going to be looking for? Kind of the reclassification?
I believe so. It's the only one I'm aware of.
Okay.
It's the only one they qualify for.
Pardon me?
It's the only one that they qualify for.
Okay.
Yeah.
If they were building, it might be a different
There's a
story. But yeah,
safeguard.
they're
Yeah,
reoccupying.
it's not starting from scratch.
No, not.
Helping us out with a beautiful building.
And another
Nice to
thing
have you
that
there.
Lindeen mentioned at ECC was the fact that a lot of their employees actually work in the city. So they like the idea of reverse commuting out here from Chicago. So
That's absolutely right. Being close to the train was very important to us. And we're next to the Mokina stop now, but for that very reason. And so to keep that proximity, this is even closer. And so it's ideal for us.
So no one's going to be late for work, are they?
Well, as long as they get it done, we don't care. They can, when they show up, when they leave, it's flexible. We do have about, as he said, 40 employees, most of whom are lawyers, and many of whom are highly compensated for what they do. And he was right again, we do like to eat out and tend to
Right.
frequent pretty much every place on that strip, so we'll be a good neighbor.
Thank you.
So did you say when your business hours would be?
9 to 5. Not that, I mean, somebody might work till 7 or,
Sure.
but there's not much traffic in and out. I mean, unless delivery people, FedEx people during the day. Sometimes clients will come, but most of our work is done electronically and we travel to clients. There's always somebody out of the office every week that's going somewhere to do something, so. But as far as people coming and going, it's just the employees in the morning and then when they leave in the afternoon. So I think we'll be a very good neighbor to the tenants above us as well. And as you see, we're taking the entire first floor, so,
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Myron.
thank you.
Any other questions? So do we have a motion for staff to present the Class 7A for Advis to occupy 17200 Oak Park Avenue at the July 2nd, 2019 Village Board meeting?
You make that motion?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Item number 5. Patrick, are you taking this, David?
I am. Thank you.
David will discuss government temp contract renewal.
So this is the renewal of Paula Walk's contract that, for those who weren't here, we've been doing this for about 4 years now. Paula initially started with us as the deputy CD director, and I think as everyone knows, was promoted to the CD director in spring, and then with Kim taking over that position a couple months ago, she is now the planning manager. And so the contract really is similar to past ones with just the change in the title, and obviously the rates that are paid changes also. And so this contract, which actually expires at the end of August, moves from $75.60 an hour to $77.49. It's a 2.5% increase, and again, that's the amount that is actually paid to GovHR, which that fee includes things like benefit payments and things like that. So, happy to answer any questions on this.
Oh, so the benefits are paid from that, $76 an hour?
Yeah,
Health
things like
insurance?
Social Security and
Oh.
Medicaid, yeah, those type of, yeah,
Right, and we're paying
the basic benefits, yeah.
the full amount.
David, do you have the numbers? If this was a full-time employment position here, do you have the difference that would be?
We can get that for you. I mean, the hourly rate, again, it's a little bit of apples to oranges, but the hourly rate is pretty similar. You know, again, because with this position, the benefits are all cooked into the numbers. And if you were gonna pay basically a straight employee, it would be that salary plus the benefit cost. And so it's pretty close to about the same hourly rate, but definitely we can get that.
But we'd be paying more for the benefit portion of it.
Well, it's a little bit more because there's IMRF, yeah. So, but the hourly rate is really pretty similar. And again, the reason for doing these type of contracts, we've had a lot of success with these contracts. It gives you an opportunity to have an employee work for you part of the time, and both sides feel each other out. That's how Mike Zanzia started with us. Eventually he was promoted to the full-time position. We also did that with our assistant HR director. So it gives you the flexibility to kind of see how an employee works out. That employee sees if they're comfortable, and that's the reason why we use these contracts.
But I think we're past that stage now, getting to know each other phase.
Yeah.
Is there any chance of being a full-time employee, and can we get the breakdown of the difference between that? Is the health insurance in the $75 an hour?
No, I guess an easy way to look at it is when you hire someone full-time here, you take that hourly wage and the benefits are about 45% above that. When you hire a
Oh,
temp
the benefits,
employee,
yeah.
you take that hourly wage and then they add 40%
Yeah.
on top of it, because it covers FICA, Social Security, unemployment, all those kind of things. The difference, as Dave said, is IMRF. But the other thing is it's hourly when you hire a temp, so you're not paying for vacation, sick time, holidays, any of those things.
And what is your current hour, how many hours are you working a week?
Now I'm doing 4 days a week, ranging, we're trying to keep 32 hours, not gonna be more than 40 hours. And the rate is $54.
I'll just say you've been
That
awesome. Thank you so much for coming in and helping me out as I got started here. I've worked with you on several projects already before I even got started and since then. So I certainly enjoy having you here and looking to continue that.
I enjoy having you here as well, but I am curious to note if we will have a regular employee ever in this spot.
Yeah, and the plan for the community development department, at least when I got brought in and kind of introduced, was that the intent was to get me in and get me understanding all the department, and my AICP certification was one of those requirements as well, which I've completed, and then that's why Paul and I now have made the formal switch. And when we were out recruiting for other planners and we found Dan, we also felt that he has definitely the ability to move up into this planning manager role. And we're working on making sure that he's, just like as Paula made sure I was kind of ready to easily switch over. We're trying to work towards that with Dan. And right now, we just made this switch, and so we're hoping that then Dan will be able to easily fill in that planning manager role. And if I, could just say, I mean, having Paula here has been a great asset because of the depth of her experience. She's not only been a community development director, she's been a village manager. She kind of knows all the aspects of the department. And she's the only one person who's been here long enough that we can kind of tap into a little bit with the history of some of these projects. So it's been a nice transition, and she's been able to add a lot of value for what we're now have her in her role. We can never probably find someone with that much experience taking this role, but yes, we are working towards that. We'd like to move up Dan to take this planning manager role.
Very good, thank you. And thank you, I feel like you're cleaning up the department on a lot of loose ends that have been happening. Thank you for that.
Diane and Mike too, just a little history before you guys got on. There was a time when Kimberly and Dan were not here, and Paula was doing the job of like 3 or 4 employees, and we were still only paying one. She was the planning manager, she was the community development director, she was the planner. So you've done a great job, I appreciate it.
It really is, it's easy for me to say this, but it's a win-win for both of us. Every job I've ever gone into, someone was fired before me. And it's always difficult, and I think a lot of professionals get into those positions. You go into a new position, and you're left without a lot of history. So what's really been wonderful, and working with these two is amazing. I've worked with Dan before, but what's really been nice is that we can have a smooth transition. So Kimberly obviously is more than prepared to do her position, but it's helpful that she could, if she gets into a new area, she can quickly talk to me and see what the history is. So my whole goal now is to move Dan up into planning manager. And my desire is, my whole goal in doing the position I'm in now is to work someplace for 4 days a week. That's my dream job. So that's what we're doing, and I love it. And I think all 3 of us are winning from that. And, a lot of times when you get someone into a planning manager position, they've got maybe 10 years. I think our requirement is, 5 or something? So I have 36 years of experience. So it is a benefit to the village. I'm not trying to be bragging about it, but I am bringing a lot of experience to the job. And I'm doing what I really love to do, and I'm working with great people. So it's really worked out very well for me.
And Paula recruited Dan and Kimberly to come here.
Pardon?
And Paula recruited Dan and Kimberly to come here and leave their other jobs.
It is difficult. I mean, I can tell you in the profession, and Kimberly knows this as well, there's not a lot of planners out there right now. So we're very lucky to have, the top planners in the field right now. So.
Well, glad that we relinquished that residency requirement so we can have all of you here as well. It makes me happy. High quality.
So do you need the extra data, or can we bring that to the next meeting? 'Cause
I think you
I'm
asked
more
Dave for
than-
that, so do you want to wait for it, or you want to
Yeah,
review it?
From me, I don't even need it.
Yeah.
We've
Okay.
been told that we're saving money over the benefits. We're saving money over vacation, sick days. Paula is a great fit for the department, and she's taken a reduced role and still doing excellent work. To me, this is a no-brainer, but
Yeah, I feel the same way with everything coming up, and what's going on in our village. I want someone with experience is extremely important.
So do we have a motion to bring the updated professional service contract for Paula Walrick to the July 2nd village board meeting?
I second it.
All those in favor?
Need to make that motion.
Aye.
Say so.
Wait, wait,
What?
wait, I'm sorry. You asked for a motion, so trustee Galante made the motion. Is there a second? You can second the motion.
Second.
trustee. Now, all in favor.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those against? Motion carries. Item number 6. Our senior planner, Dan Ritter, to discuss the recommendation to the development fee increases.
Yeah, so we took a look at a number of the community development fees, their appropriateness, their adequacy in terms of what kind of costs they cover, as well as the competition or comparative to other communities nearby. So we were looking at looking at some adequate fee levels. Most of these fees haven't been updated in 10 to 20 years. Most of the fees are among the lowest, if not the lowest, when you kind of look at the comparison communities around us. Kind of with any fee, there's always kind of a debate of where you kind of draw that line. Traditionally, municipalities try and kind of cover harder upfront costs that are kind of initially paid out, things like legal notices or newspaper notices that just kind of have that initial cost. Then there's kind of the other side of the spectrum of should development kind of pay its own way, but kind of as projects have, or as municipalities' revenue sources have kind of decreased over the years, they've leaned more towards that development should pay its own way. But Tinley hasn't traditionally done that, and the fees that we're kind of bringing you today, we haven't really done that either. We've kind of looked at what our neighboring communities do, and then either try and kind of hit the average mark or maybe slightly below it, just to knowing that we need to remain competitive. So the majority of the fees that are in front of you here to increase that we're recommending, the large majority of these are all development or commercial related fees. So they would be kind of a new developer coming in asking for development approval, or a new construction of a building that needs variations, or a new plat, something of that nature. So there are a few that would that don't fall under that category. The primary one being residential variation, and that's just, we basically slightly moved that up, just in comparison to other communities, it's pretty low. And then also to kind of help avoid kind of arbitrary requests or repetitive requests for those. We've also moved up some of the building permits just to move the minimum up to $50. So we have some $15 and $30 building permits out there that barely cover kind of the cost of the paper and the printing we do for the permit. So we're just trying to move the last few building permit fees that are under $50 up to $50. So these are primarily just the community development fees. There's a few other fees that are being looked into as well that'll be going to their various committees. And we're looking to kind of tie this all together at a committee of the whole meeting on June 16th. July 16th. The kind of one other aspect that we have to this is that kind of as we've been reviewing these fees, they're pretty scattered everywhere. So we have some in the zoning code, some in the building code, some are in the code of ordinances. So they're just kind of drawn in all over the place. So as I've been running around trying to chase all these fees, we thought, most communities kind of have a summarized fee schedule that's in their ordinance. So anywhere you see that it says you got to pay a fee, it just directs you to kind of an appendix, a summary of all the fees the community has. So that's easier for us and you guys as we look to kind of update these as the times go by, and then as well as just if a resident wants to know a fee, they have one section they can go to instead of digging through our code of ordinances. That isn't very fun. So we've kind of listed out the certain fees here in the memo. There's only a handful of them, but and we've kind of done the initial proposed fee based on kind of what we saw with the other communities. So looking for any feedback for those, and then as well as to bring this forward to the committee of the whole meeting, and with the comprehensive fee schedule as well.
Dan, for the ones that were 0 now, do we have any idea why they were that way? Is it just oversight?
We were just talking about annexation today, and it's bizarre that there's just, we've all kind of looked around all the codes expecting that there would be something that just clearly shows like an annexation fee, and we just can't find it. Yeah, and we've charged them before in the past, and I think that's because some of that can be negotiated, and you guys can always still do that, as an annexation isn't necessarily a requirement. You guys don't have to annex anyone. So if there's kind of extenuating fees or issues, you can negotiate those as part of an annexation agreement. But it's nice to have something. I mean, if a resident, even that's in the county right now, wants to annex in, it's nice to have some kind of baseline that we're working from. So besides that one, the zoning and subdivision code text amendments is kind of an odd one too, because anyone can kind of make some of those codes, like a resident could make that request, and you just kind of want to have something there to make sure someone's not coming before you guys asking for changes every day. And then the site plan approval is kind of a change. We're basically eliminating one fee and plugging that one in place. The site plan's a little more common than, we have a fee in our subdivision code that has kind of new development when it doesn't include public improvements. So we're kind of just flip-flopping those, but site plan is a much more common fee and process. And we already have that process in place, but we don't charge for it. So, yeah, so it's kind of been a little bit of an oversight. Some of it's been the code being confusing, the fees being scattered. So
Any other questions?
Yeah, what will, when fees are waived, how will that transpire for some of these? I mean, the one thing I know is South Street, we waived a lot of money.
part
How did
of-
that transpire? And
it's part of the development kind of agreement process. Normally, I think Patrick works with them, we come up with a development agreement. It comes before you guys, and you guys essentially agree in that development agreement to waive them. So if a developer wants to come in here and ask for an annexation waiver, that can be part of the annexation agreement or part of a development agreement that would come back before you guys.
so we can vary that. Will we be changing those fees in the future on a case-by-case basis, Pat? Or how will this work?
Yeah, that'd probably be
Ones
part of
that
it.
would go in a development agreement, if, the normal process of that would be, developers could ask if there's an incentive agreement, and then obviously that's a case-by-case for the board to make.
Yeah, so typically they go in there kind of as we have them drawn out, and then they'd ask you guys, can we lower them, can we get rid of them? What the reasoning behind that is.
So they would have been charged the lower amounts because we are just reviewing this now.
Oh, so you're saying the agreements
Retroactively,
now?
we've got
Yeah.
even more incentive for them on the table.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah,
thank you,
So this
Dan.
would just be going forward.
Okay.
They would all take effect on the July 16th if it's approved that board meeting, or did we have?
Well, I think that's
Schedule.
cow, so then cow, it would go to the village board after that for first reading, and then it'll do 2 readings just because it's a text amendment.
We're timing this with the building code updates as
Right.
well, so I believe all in all September.
September
August
3rd.
20th, or September 20th.
But it would be effective immediately. We're not giving folks the end of the year or anything
Right.
like that.
Correct.
Yeah, these are the bulk of them. There's, some of the other departments have some recommendations too.
Said Public Works had some, right?
Yeah. And Dan did kind of a good job of kind of getting this all together in the committee. And again, it's something that, as you'll find in some of the other committees, it's just things that haven't been looked at, not just times in years and decades. And honestly, good sound policy is really these type of things should be looked at every few years, and there should be minor increases. It shouldn't be something where you wait 10, 20 years and then you have to do a big one, but obviously we're kind of making up for lost time.
Any other questions from the committee? So do we have a motion to present the current fee adjustments to the July 16th cow?
I'll make a motion.
A second?
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? Motion carries. Item number 7, our planning manager, Paula Walrick, will discuss the text amendments for banquet facilities.
Thank you. Sort of tagging on to Dan's comments about how we've found some inadequacies in our codes. As one of the 3 planners, we continue to struggle with our zoning ordinance. We have found many antiquated, conflicting, and confusing information. We actually have in our 2021 capital improvement budget, if it gets approved, to do a comprehensive zoning code amendment, which is really the best way to do it instead of doing it incrementally, because every time you touch the zoning code, it has a ripple effect. And that's kind of what we have found as we read through our zoning code. We can see the path that a prior planner had taken to try to fix a problem without realizing that it had, an impact in another portion of the code. So needless to say, we're very cautious when we look at a text amendment. Certainly, you don't want to do this just for one project, but typically, and as most planners will tell you, you will go and look at your zoning code to make sure it's kept up to date. But if you're beginning to see a lot of variances, for example, that tells you something's wrong with the code. Or, trends change, the industry changes, and you might not have addressed marijuana, for example, before, and now you need to start to address it. So one of those, and that's kind of the case in this situation, we had a request for a banquet facility, and oddly, when we started looking through our code, it was very strange. There wasn't even a definition for a banquet facility. We did find that it was permitted in the M1 and the ORI districts, which was kind of odd because you often think of a banquet facility somewhat associated with a restaurant maybe or a hotel. But that was the only two districts that it was allowed. And when you start to look, what planners are great plagiarizers. We always look and see what the industry does. We'll look at Orland Park, Oak Lawn, Frankfurt, Mokena, kind of see how other communities handle this. And we found that most other communities will handle a banquet facility in their business districts. So we began analyzing it, and the code actually provides some inherent flexibility. We have a sort of a catch-all area called similar and compatible uses, and that's a typical trick zoning ordinances will do to try to provide you an opportunity to look at a use that may not be specifically listed as a permitted use, but is similar and compatible to something else that you can consider under a special use process. So we went through that whole review, and the only thing we found somewhat similar was a definition for private clubs and lodges and a definition for meeting hall. But quite honestly, as we dug deeper into it, it still didn't address what some of the requests were from the public looking for. This particular request came before us for a B1 district, our most restricted business district. And after a lot of discussion amongst the planners, we decided we really needed to look at this as a distinct use with distinct characteristics that we can make sure we can locate it in the right district that doesn't have any negative impacts on its surrounding land uses. Because that's what we're all about, right? We don't want to put a McDonald's right next to a home, asphalt mixing plant right next to a home. So we try to find the use and try to find the best compatible areas. If you are looking at your memo, if you want to turn to page 3, what I did is kind of look through each one of our business districts and try to find the compatibility and where it might work. Our districts are pyramidal, so you look at B1 as our most restrictive district. And those are our districts that you might think of as local shopping districts. They often could be adjacent to residential uses, so you obviously are fairly cautious when you look at those kind of commercial uses that you want to place in a B1. But again, what's kind of odd in Tinley Park, we have some rather strange places that we saw the B1. Most of our B1s are along 80th Avenue, but we do have a B1 that's right on 159th. 159th is one of our major commercial corridors, 4-lane road sections. So certainly you would think a property that borders 159th could handle a more intense use. But because B1, the way that it's written and where the other districts are located along 80th Avenue within close proximity to residential neighborhoods, what our recommendation is to allow a banquet facility, but only as a special use. And if I'll just do a little planning 101, what a special use does is it can't go there by right, has to have a review by the Plan Commission and approval by the village board. It allows you to look at all kinds of things. It allows you to look at traffic, parking, noise, hours of business, things that they don't automatically get to go in that district. So staff's recommendation is to allow it in a B1 district, but only if it's 5,000 square feet and less. So it's starting to look at the use, looking at the district, making sure it has, you know, it's not as intense use as, let's say, a 30,000 square foot banquet facility. So going up the chain to a B2 community district, we actually only have one area in town that's B2. And again, if, you know, none of us have been here all that long, you kind of look back and wonder why it was done. If you take the area between Oak Park Avenue and Harlem Avenue, along 159th, where Menards is at, you know, the whole chain of commercial uses on 159th and down to Harlem Avenue, that's our only B2 district. So it's a fairly intense commercial area. It has a lot of traffic running by it. It could handle a fair amount of traffic, because again, when you think about a banquet facility, you think of episodic uses. It's not like a Starbucks that gets a lot of traffic, but it gets it during rush hour, let's say. A banquet's gonna get it at one set time, all at one time, unless it has various size rooms in it. So our recommendation in looking at B2, especially in terms of where it's located, is to allow it as a special use, so again, then we could have some controls, but have it no greater than 7,500 square feet. Going up again, B3, that's our large commercial district. That's where you see Brookside Marketplace. That's where you see the convention and visitors, or, I'm sorry, the convention center. So it's purposely designed to handle a lot of traffic, a lot of parking. And so in this district, we're recommending that it be a permitted use. So it gets to go there no matter what. But we put a limit on the size, and we said no greater than 30,000 square feet. And just to give you a sense of scale, if you know where the Tuscany Falls Convention, or what do they call it, banquet facility on 191st is in Mokina, that's 28,000 square feet. So that kind of gets you a sense of scale. So if you can imagine putting something like that in a B3 zoned property, we feel that it could handle that. It could handle the parking and handle the traffic. Then if a user wanted to be greater than 30,000 square feet, we want to push that into a special use, again, so that we can consider special conditions on it. Again, in a B3, if you have something between a 30, no greater than 50,000 square feet, we're allowing it in a B3 district. B4 is really designed for offices. We've got some odd B4 zone property in town that has allowed more commercial uses. Not really sure the big history behind that, but for the most part, B4 should be relegated to office type uses, a little bit lesser intense. So we're looking at that similar to the B1 and saying that it needs to be a special use, can't be bigger than 5,000 square feet. B5 is our automobile district. We want to protect that. We certainly want to prioritize and get as many auto dealerships in town as we can. Those are primarily located along 159th. We don't want to erode away that by allowing convention centers, or I'm sorry, banquet centers in there, so we've prohibited it in any B5. And the last aspect of this that you really want to regulate is parking. If you ever heard me get on my soapbox about parking, I always feel like it should be somewhat self-regulated, because if you are a private entity, you're hurting yourself if you're not providing adequate parking. But historically, places have overparked. We see this all over the place in our larger commercial centers, where they design it for the day after Thanksgiving, and that happens one day a year. So I like to see somewhat of it be self-regulating. I did a lot of research in terms of, there's some publications, I looked at what other villages do. It seems the range is between one parking space per 100 square feet is as the most restrictive, and then up to one space per 200 square feet. My recommendation is that when we look at those districts that are close to residential, we want to be very protective of our residents, so that the parking for a banquet facility, for example, doesn't spill over to right in front of their home, you know, parking on private streets and so forth. So we want to make sure we provided enough parking on these B1 sites. So my recommendation is that on B1 and B4 districts, that we require the 1 per 100. The existing districts that we already are allowing it in the M1 and the ORI, also one space per 100. But in the B2 and the B3, which is our larger shopping centers, Brookside Marketplace, for example, or the Menards Brementown Plaza, where there's a lot of cross parking opportunities and shared parking, allow that to go up to one space per 200. and making sure that they have shared parking opportunities. A lot of times, you'll see banquet facilities run opposite hours of some of the retailers, so that should work out. So with these recommendations, if you support these recommendations, what we'll want to do is take these on through the Plan Commission entitlement. It'll be a full text amendment, which always requires 2 meetings before you. It will require 2 meetings before Plan Commission as well. So there's still a little bit of a road for this, but we feel this will help us address some of the requests that are coming before us.
Questions from the committee?
You know, I'm just curious why we wouldn't keep the special use on all of them, you know, so we would be able to have a little bit more control, because, you know, I guess I would be concerned if all these areas were allowed bank, you know, they could just go in there without.
Some of it, you know, I try to think globally on this, and you want to be pro-economic development. You know, a special use is a bigger process. You know, when I looked at the B2 and B3, for example, B2, like I said, there's very limited space in town, zone B2. That's just the Menards Plaza and where Waltz is at. The B3, there's actually not a lot of vacant B3 zoned right now. But if you were to say the convention center parcel, you know, you would want, if they had well, they already have a banquet facility, it's not a good example, but where else would we have a B3? Maybe Tinley Park Mental Health Center, if that ends up getting zone B3. You want to be able to act quickly if you have a request before you on that. And I guess I understand your concern about protecting us. What you would really want to do is make sure that all our other codes are tight enough and reflect what you're concerned about. And to me, a banquet is mostly concerned about parking and traffic control. And that's why you know, I was pretty strict on the parking requirements. You can throw everything into a special use. It's just, you know, it's just, I guess, a common policy that whenever you have a use in town, you have to provide it somewhere by right.
So that developer will be paying the $500 then too. So that also will increase, they pay that fee, the special use permit fee?
It is
Will it be passed on to
$500
the
a PUD
consumer,
one,
so to speak?
Or special use, yeah.
I have a question about the B5. Has there, and maybe Patrick could answer, has there been any requests from Carvana or Car Gurus or Tesla for these kind of developments?
There has been requests for other auto dealers, and yeah, we have a lack of B5. I mean, there are some storage facilities that are on 159th that would be more ideal used as auto dealerships. But yeah, that's the primary location right now besides the CarMax on the south side of town.
So they're all like surface parking, not the car garages that are, people
Not
are ordering
yet.
cars online now more?
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, that tower would look cool off of I-80. Big vending machine, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, but, you know, that'll be our next thing probably, right?
Might have a height restriction, we have to waive for that.
I see a variance in the horizon.
Yeah.
Paul, I have concerns with the B1.
The B1?
Yeah, if you ever been there at night?
In which one though?
The B1 here, the one on 76th Avenue and 159th.
Yeah, there's several B1s, but on that one,
Well, the one that's in
right,
in your diagram.
right.
The B1 neighboring shopping district of 159th, I have a lot of concerns about letting any type of banquet facility go in there. If you ever go there, even sometimes during the day, there's no parking. Whistle is doing really well, and they pack that place. People are gonna be parking all over the neighborhood on 159th Place if a banquet hall goes in there, because if Whistle even was bigger, there's not enough parking.
Yeah, like by Lou Malnati's and Tribes, that lot, you can't even get in that lot either.
Nope, it would just went
There's
to the-
another one that's even more congested than this one will
Well,
be.
having the
we just
special
went
use
through
will
the other
give
day,
you
it was
Yeah.
parked by
control.
CBS.
It's-
I mean, the special use will give you control. I was over there today, but it's, you know, it's a Monday. I have not been there at night lately. But they would have to prove that they meet those parking requirements.
And typically, there would be a parking study. If they're starting to get close to a number, we usually ask for some kind of parking study. The plan commission would expect that too, to say.
Yeah, I
Before
did a
you-
parking diagram just today on this. They have 180 parking spaces over there. This use would require 35 parking spaces, just this use.
35 just for that one, for a banquet?
For a banquet facility of 3,500 square feet.
They'd have only 35 parking spots?
And that includes
How many
employees?
people would be coming to the banquet?
Probably the same as Winston's and
10 people?
Ashford House,
10.
they have a banquet and that
I mean,
lot's small
are we talking
also.
banquets like a wedding
So it's not like
banquet or-
anything unusual for us.
Just,
But 3,500 is not a very large banquet facility.
And what is the Ashford House, similar? And that
Ashford
lot's real
House?
small too.
That's a
I
restaurant.
don't know.
We're-
It's got a
we're-
banquet in there. You have the whole room.
Yeah, but that's a room inside a restaurant. It's a
That's what
big
this is gonna
difference.
be. This is 3,500.
But this
3,500.
isn't a restaurant. Is there a
I don't know what
particular-
their seating, I don't think we've gotten that far to know what their seating capacity is.
I would look more into this location before you, my suggestion, before you move forward with including this one in that, because there's literally no parking there. You go there at night or on a weekend, I mean, you're parking by 76th Avenue. There's nowhere to park. Or there's people parked all up and down 159th Place. That one
That one concerns you.
spills over dramatically into the neighborhood. And there's people too, there's people that live in the apartments that park over there.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. I've seen them firsthand. I know some of the people on 159 Place, and I've been at their house, and people have parked over there, and they walk over to their apartment because they're out of spots.
Huh.
The parking is really bad over there.
Do we know how many?
Was this
Is
a
that-
property that someone's proposing banquet use for, or we just
And
find?
I was at a board meeting and he came the night there was some discussion of gaming and.
So you figure 6 to 8 employees, you're gonna have a banquet for 20 people?
So I'd recommend,
Is it gonna be a separate?
I mean,
Probably.
we're talking about the specific project now? I mean, so.
No, we're
I-
talking
I don't
about
think we
the
can
tax
So do you,
amendment.
you know,
Yeah.
do you
We
like
should
the
hold
overall
off
idea
on
of the
this.
tax amendment? Because you all obviously get a chance to weigh any specific project, because you're keeping it special use or by right?
It'd be a
So special use, it would be
B1 or
vetted, it would
special
go
use.
through the board, and then you guys would have any specific project, not just this one.
Yeah, there's no parking at that, but this is, I wouldn't mind seeing if you could send me all the other B1s, because this one is,
Yeah, they're down, along 80th Avenue,
could you shoot an
80th
email to
Avenue,
the board?
167, it's here in
Yeah,
this.
but if you're talking like 171st
memo.
and 80th Avenue.
But I can send it to you.
Thanks.
Okay, that would allow them to have like 171st and 80th Avenue, that's strip mall. That would allow them to have somebody could go in there with the banquet, have a banquet.
If they had the room for it, I got a feeling they.
Yeah, I mean.
It would be under, well, so it'd be under 5,000 square feet, right?
Yeah,
And then
it
would
can't be any
a
bigger than
special use.
5,000 square feet.
So Family Dollar goes out of business, could, well, I don't, that might be more than 5,000.
Yeah,
They could.
but that would be a B1, that mall.
Yes, that's a B1.
See, I think that's way too small. I think, I wouldn't even wanna consider somebody going in there. It
Well, they would
make that
have to,
nightmare.
they'd have to meet the parking, and in those situations, they probably can't make the parking. And as a landlord, if it's a situation like that where they're not counted out and you're a landlord, you're looking at sort of the symbiotic relationships between all your uses, you don't want one use consuming it and pushing all your other tenants out. So I don't, that particular one you're talking about, I don't see it going in there.
But back this one, Whistles, their parking, they take all the way from 159th down to 159th Place and wrap around the front of the building. I mean, the place is
Yeah.
packed. I mean, great for them, but there's,
Well, don't we have to, isn't, the Whistle is required to have so much parking, right?
And
every
they
other
should all then,
business
right?
is required to have so much
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I
parking.
can't hear you.
So if we have, the Whistle, who's there already, is required to have so much parking.
Yep.
I mean, we look at that, do they have that parking? Not, I mean, they have their parking, not to count that. I mean, if we looked at all the businesses there, whatever their parking
Absolutely.
requirements are.
Before anything could be approved on this, I would have to, I went out and just counted spaces, but I'd have to take every use there and total up their required amount of spaces.
Mhm.
There's a chiropractor in the back, there's office uses at the very back of the building, so, I mean, we're not, as our attorney said, we're not really doing the Whistle review tonight. But that was in the back of my mind when I was working on it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, I
it's what
just mean
pushed
that
us to
whatever
look at this.
whatever's over there right now.
And that's why with those parking studies, they'll also assume, there's vacancies in the shopping center, so they're gonna assume an average of something that would go in that spot,
Right.
so.
And then the way you can pull in there and how if you're having 100, I mean, I'm assuming someone wants to have a banquet, they're gonna have 100 people, I mean, for a banquet? You're gonna have all these, how is that gonna pull in there at that location?
Yeah, I don't know if they'd have capacity for 100.
I think we talked around like 60 or less, small events that they wanted to host for people that don't need the big banquet rooms. Because I remember when I was looking for spaces, certain places have a capacity you have to even book a room, you know, and it's those smaller venues that you have a hard time finding those places that.
Tinley Park
offer
Convention
that.
Center, it's beautiful.
I don't know how Ashford House
We should
passed.
encourage them to go there.
Kimberly, you said
Yeah,
a venue,
I don't have
you're
it here,
thinking
but there's
people that,
something like one per, I think it's 20 square feet. I remember looking this up, but I don't have it off the top of my head.
you just said thinking smaller venues, like 60 people.
Right, 60 people or less.
Well,
Mhm.
well, that's for 35.
What, people?
You're basing this on 35 parking spots. So if they have a venue of 60, you subtract the 8 employees, they can have 25 people there.
Well, if every person's driving a car.
I go with my spouse.
Uber.
Yeah, the majority are like 2 to 1 at least, the majority.
And if they're gonna ask for a variance, it's their job to meet the burdens and prove
They
it.
have to prove it.
And
They have-
parking is one of those specific special use standards, so.
But it's a,
Okay, we can look at, making the threshold smaller, where this is going to 5,000, because that's where I saw the standards in other communities. You could make it smaller if you were uncomfortable with that.
In some
1,500
locations, it might be
square
okay. You know, I mean, in some locations, it could be just fine. It's, you know, depending on the location. Here, I just worry if, you know, maybe it isn't gonna be 100. I'm thinking banquet, I'm thinking you have significant amount of people, just because of the, you know, all these people trying to get in there, what it's gonna do to traffic at the same time. It's not a great location for that.
Well,
you're talking 35
159,
people,
The
then-
fact that this particular site's on 159, that can handle that kind of episodic flow of traffic, but in terms of parking, that's another.
Yeah, but if you're backing up all up and down 159 to get into there, it's gonna take a while for 100, you know, whatever, 50
Well,
cars.
they have like 3 points of access.
Mm-hmm.
They have 4
Seems
points
like
of
an odd
access.
spot for me to.
Well, and I guess just as an overall, like, B1 shopping centers tend to be our ones that are struggling a little bit more. So we've kind of looked at, you know, there's kind of new uses that you gotta look at them a little bit different, because these are our ones that are struggling. You know, is there some kind of uses we can consider here that are maybe be a little different than what we've expected in the past, just because this one and then the 2 on 80th Avenue, kind of over by Centennial Park and stuff, those 2 have a lot of vacancy with the Skillet House. So I'm just kind of thinking that those are the B1s, is this something that could at least be considered there?
Yeah, I understand.
So it sounds like we don't want to send it to the plan commission the way it's written now. Am I hearing?
I just, I mean,
Everybody correctly?
I worry about like Mike said, I just keep thinking about the one on 180th Avenue, 171st, like that being able to, you know.
80th
I think if you're having specific, issue places, I mean, you'll be able to address those. I mean,
With the special
You believe
use.
in the whole concept overall, I mean, and this would not, correct me if I'm wrong, Paul, this doesn't grant any place the right to open this, that all, this is just the first step that sets up the process for those places to come in and ask you if they.
It's trying to give us some guidance so that we know how to take these kind of applications as they come in. And we know one's coming, so we wanted to get ahead of it.
For a
So-
B1.
So the only one that doesn't have special use is B3. So are we comfortable with that?
That's big.
So do
Yes, I am.
I am too.
So do we have a motion to take this to the plan commission on July 18th?
I'll make a motion to take it to plan commission.
I'd second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Item number 8, receive comments from the public. Seeing none, we have a motion to adjourn the Community Development Committee meeting at this time?
So moved?
Seconded? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Meeting's adjourned. Guys want to take a minute break?
Let me go.
Do you have to sneeze?
I drink a lot of water.
almost said economic development, my bad. I used to have two. Item number 2, consider the approval of the minutes of the marketing committee meeting held on May 28, 2018. Is there such a motion?
I make a motion?
Seconded?
All in favor?
Aye.
Item number 3, receive an update on marketing, branding, and communication initiatives. Ms. Donna Frampke is going to take a moment to reflect on these wonderful items going on here in our town.
Momentary flat. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to give you an update on the things that we have going on in our marketing communications area. So, this time of season, we're very event heavy. Right now, we have had some success with our cruise nights, although the first one, weather gods have necessarily been our. The weather gods have not necessarily been our friends. However, the cruise night's the only one that rained out was the first one. So we have had 3. The first one was a little lightly attended, but we've had 2 very successful events on June 11th and June 18th. We're somewhere around capacity at 250, so you can see that we're getting some high numbers there. We have had some enhancements going on this year with the DJ kind of moved inside that closed-in area. We have more interactive activities and some, dancing and trivia. There's very much a festive atmosphere inside the event. We have some local businesses that have been participating with, balloon animals. Durbin's has some live music going on out there, some other businesses out there with face painting and stuff. So obviously this is leading to good, successful attendance by the public as well. So tomorrow evening, we are expecting 86 and clear, so hopefully we'll have another successful event tomorrow. The first Music in the Plaza on the 15th was rained out. However, this Saturday, we're going to have a country band, which tend to be our very successful performances. We have 350 Brewing that's going to be there, selling food and drinks. Colonel Sweet Tooth is going to be there. Our presenting sponsor this year is Renewal by Anderson. And as you know, with the construction going on in that north lot, we have the need to flip the layout. So right now, between the farmer's market and the Music in the Plaza, we have the events set up on the far east side of the lots with parking on the west. And then as soon as the paver stones are complete on North Street and they flip their construction, we'll be flipping our event layouts. Our benches on the avenue have been fairly successful this year. We have 22 benches. They're pretty popular. Our brochure is up. We have a flippable brochure on the website. The printed copies, which have been requested quite a bit, will be out in the key locations sometime at the end of this week. We also, at the library's request, have pictures of each one of the benches on display at the library for the summer as well. We have our farmer's market, as I just mentioned, set up out there. I was out there Saturday, and lots of people. The vendors are very pleased. We actually seen quite a bit of business out there. As you know, we did a survey at the end of last season and got some good feedback that we shared with our market group, and they have taken some initiatives to expand their offerings, some additional vendors and that type of thing this year. So we also have musicians out there. So moving on to our new little fun project, a companion project to the Benches on the Avenue is our musical chairs program that we have this year. We had about 40 artists, or 40 submissions of from artists. We've selected, I should say the Marketing Branding Commission has selected 23 of them. Right now, we have 18 businesses and counting that have requested to participate in it. And this is going to be kind of a fun little project that'll have kind of a treasure hunt / social media component to it, where the benches will be placed in these businesses and little clues will go out through our social media, and people will win prizes for finding the benches in the businesses that are participating.
Like Pokemon, huh?
That'd be better, way better.
And then I would like to give you a very little brief update on our WGN program that we've been working on. I'm going to give you, this is a 3-minute video that Pete McMurray from WGN did on our benches.
Hey, it's Pete McMurray from WGN Radio. We're in Tinley Park checking out their public art program. For the last 16 years, they've been decorating benches. What do you say we check them out? We're standing with the mayor of Tinley Park, Mayor Jacob Vandenberg. Thanks for having us.
I appreciate being here, Pete. Thank you.
Tinley Park, known as a music town, but now you're known as an art town.
Absolutely. It's a great addition to our community.
What is the theme this year for the benches?
This year's theme is prized page turners.
Okay.
So it's a very interesting theme based upon novels that people enjoy, and it's reflective upon the art.
What are your favorites?
So I had three. We're standing in front of one with Game of Thrones.
That's pretty impressive
and
right there.
It is. It's awesome. My childhood favorite being Paddington Bear, and then also Treasure Island. That's a pretty fascinating piece of artwork as well.
And Mr. Mayor, most of these artists are from the area, right?
Yes, they are. Majority of them are. Some of them are a part of a artist organization or group, and luckily enough, we have one that's been a part of this since the very beginning.
We're standing with artist Nick Schulian. This is your masterpiece. Tell everybody about this. Wow.
Well, it is something new. It's a different mood than I usually do. I usually do light and fluffy,
Okay.
cartoony.
Well, this is not light and fluffy, but I love it. So this is Dracula. That's his castle right there. It's a three-dimensional bench. How long did this thing take to put together?
It took me about 6 weeks, and I work every day, at least 5 hours a day.
Wow. So Nick, you have a connection to another artist that's been painting these benches.
Yes, I do. My daughter does them too. She's done them for 14 years. I've done them for 15. And between us, we've done about 75 benches.
Jen Lilly is your daughter.
Jen Lilly is my daughter.
And you sometimes collaborate.
We work together. We work together in my backyard.
I decided I wanted to do Hunger Games. I'm a big fan of the books. I've read them all. I've seen the movies, and I just wanted to do something a little bit different.
So the attention to detail, how did you come up with this, the top of her dress?
Well, I was working from a photo reference, and it had this texture to it, and I happened to see this in my dad's garage.
You're
It
kidding.
was just laying there, and it spoke to me, and so I decided to use it, and it worked.
So you grew up in Tinley Park and you work here. What do you do?
I'm a business office assistant at the Tinley Park Public Library.
You
So-
work at the library
I
in
do.
Tinley
I
Park.
do.
I mean, that's fantastic.
Yes, it's a wonderful place.
While you're out here in Tinley Park checking out the benches, check out Music in the Plaza select Saturdays during the summertime. I'm sitting on the Paddington bench, which is right next to where they hold the downtown cruise nights every Tuesday night in June, July, and August in downtown Tinley Park. If you love classic cars, you got to check them out. This is a whale. This is the Moby Dick bench right across from where they hold the Tinley Park Block Party, third Sunday in July. Now that's a party, and this is a whale. Hope you enjoyed some of the benches on the Avenue. For more information on the benches or anything going on in Tinley Park, just go to tinleypark.org.
Not popcorn. So this is being shared socially, obviously through our channels, but also by WGN. They're doing some geo-targeting to communities within a 10-mile radius of us right now, and through their mobile ads, through their digital network, through Tribune Broadcasting's digital network, this is being pushed out. So trying to keep as best we can a measure on how much this is affecting our events. Last Friday, the mayor and four of our 5 brewers, unfortunately 350 had something come up at the last minute, but we're down with Rocon and what's Roper's? I'm having a brain freeze on Roper's first name. Richard Roper and Anna Devlantes. They did a live segment at 5:30 on Friday, and each one of the brewers got to talk about the fact that we have 5 breweries in town. It was a really, really pretty good segment for us. The brewers were very happy. I think it reflected very well on the community. We did find out during the process that we are, sans the city of Chicago, we're the community that has the most brewers in one town. So that's kind of neat. This is also being supported with a robust commercial schedule. Tomorrow morning, Patrick Hoban and the mayor are also going down there to talk about business on the Bill and Wendy show at 10:30 in the morning. And then, of course, we have the ads for the White Sox that are playing during the White Sox games, as well as just the general run of programming. I could play one quick 30-second one for you, get a sense of what's going on out there.
Isn't it time you amplified your life? Take a short drive or train ride to the village of Tinley Park to experience a music scene unlike any other. Interested in high-profile acts? Visit the Hollywood Casino Amphitheater. Want something more intimate or local? Check out the active music scene in the award-winning restaurants and bars of downtown Tinley. Or spend a Saturday at Music in the Plaza. No matter where you go, the music of Tinley Park will amplify your life.
Brought to you by the Village of Tinley Park and the Illinois Office of Tourism.
So there's an example of our ads. And these are supported by some social media posts that are put out through both the station and several of the personalities' personal pages. And also supporting the brand, we have, as you probably know, or have seen, we have speakers on some of the poles right around the plaza area and the fountain area. We're looking to expand those, and at the suggestion of our Marketing and Branding Commission, are going to start playing music out there on a consistent basis. So we're supporting the brand with that consistent music. We also have been busy ordering some swag options at some of the new stuff that we have coming in this year, in addition to some of the other stuff that's been very popular, like those umbrellas and picnic blankets and that type of thing. And then I will do a very brief update for you on some of our communication channels. So on our website, right now, we have mapped out our monthly visitors for you. We seem to average somewhere around 17,000 visitors a month that are visiting the site. Obviously, you can see the dips that happen at certain times of the year. We have our community email. We've been more or less on a consistent upward trajectory. You'll see that dip, for example, around December, which generally happens when we clean out some of our subscriptions from like employees that have left and that type of thing. But overall, pretty consistent upward trend. Right now, we're about 4,680 subscribers. We do enjoy a very good open rate on that newsletter. We're 40%, which by industry standards is pretty high. We also are tracking our YouTube visits and views. We have, last month, 4,471 viewers. This equates to 35,350 minutes of watch time. This is variable based on many factors, somewhere between 7,000 and 3,000, as you can see from looking at the graph. And it tends to be obviously dependent on what's going on that month. We have our Facebook. This is the Village Facebook, also on an upward trend, 4,500 page likes right now. We have, last month, had 105,780 reach and engagement of 20,810. Twitter followers are right now at 2,800, almost 2,890. Again, they spike certain times of year. Generally, we tend to see a lot of that around at the event time. We push out generally for our larger events a virtual map, and that generates a lot of viewers and followers. And then our Instagram, we started in October of last year. We're now up to 625 people subscribing there. And that obviously is better at the summertime. We'll have a lot more picturesque things to push out there. LinkedIn, we just started in January. Right now we have 48, I think I said past that one. We have 48 followers right now. This is very useful for our Human Resources Department, and they're helping a lot with the content. And then finally, just a mention of the citizen survey, which I brought to you last month. We're on target to be sending that out to 1,700 households in mid-July. I will, of course, be bringing those results to you when they're ready in the fall. So that is my very brief
that's
overview.
excellent.
If there's anything that you would like me to bring with any kind of consistency, please let me know, and I'm happy to bring out whatever you're looking for.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Certainly.
Excellent job. I love that commercial. Would anyone care to address the board at this time? Let the record reflect there are no comments from the public. And I'd like to adjourn the meeting. I have a motion to adjourn the meeting at 7:55.
I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Can you start the next one? Okay. I'd like to call the special meeting of the Finance Committee to order. And with both Mike and Cindy here, we have a quorum. So I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from the special committee meeting we held on May 28th.
So moved.
Seconded.
Thank you. Is there any discussion, on any of that? Okay. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. No nays. I have to. The first item up here is to review the financial report. Michael's going to do that for us.
Thank you, Chairman. Brett has provided the report for May of this year. I'll just go give you a brief summary at a 40,000 foot level. The 01 fund has revenues of approximately $3.45 million. This is a little less than budget. The only reason for that, though, is because property taxes came in, and that is a seasonal type variable revenue that comes in August and in March. So there's a lot of variability in that, and that's why you'll see the low revenues when compared to budget. Of course, this will catch up in the subsequent months. As for the expenses, $2.7 million. The variability in this is the personnel expenses, which, on some months we have 3 pay periods, and others we have 2. In this case, we had 2, so we are quite under budget on that one. That said, that's my brief overview of the 01 fund for May 2019.
Any questions? No. Okay. The next item is to discuss the liability of workers' compensation insurance.
Sure. Thank you, Trustee Galani. So the next 2 items are really updates on our 2 large insurance programs, and to get direction from the board on both of these. So Hannah's going to give a report. As you all know, January 1st, we did switch to a new insurance pool, ICMRT. So we have some very initial numbers on losses and trends, and which is in your packet. So Hannah, you want to give a report on that?
Yeah, so as Dave said, we've been with ICRMT for about 6 months now. So just some initial numbers and a look at what's been going on the past 6 months. As you can see in the memo, so far we are pretty low with losses. We've been fortunate to keep those low, so that's definitely a good thing. The main claims categories, if we want to go through those. So a lot of the claims do consist of either incident only, where minimal damage has occurred, or other minor property damage, so to trees, to light poles, street signs, etc. So where we can get subrogation for those, we get subrogation and some money back. When it's a hit and run, we typically are unable to do so. So that does consist of, or a majority of the claims do consist of those fall in that category. Right now, we have about 6 auto claims. This is where actually one of our largest claims has been so far, one of our prisoner transport police vehicles. In regards to workers' compensation, again, there's been about 6 of those claims. And thankfully, again, losses have been low. Haven't had any major injuries this year thus far. 2 of the in one other category for public officials liability, there are 2 pending cases that are being handled by attorneys. So there are some reserves set aside for expected legal fees with those 2. Just a general update in regards to ICRMT and the new insurance. So far things have been pretty good with them. I think anytime there is transition, especially for something as big as insurance, there is going to be some new processes and whatnot to work through. But ICRMT has been very open with communication and willing to work with staff. We've worked through different processes with them. They've come out and done a claims review with us. They've come to some internal safety committee meetings. They offer various resources. We've gone to a seminar recently that they provide some legal updates and recent trends. So they've got a lot of resources that we are trying to take advantage of, and they're sure to keep us in the loop whenever we have opportunities. Just one other thing that's important to note, I think, as many of you are, likely aware, that we do have some outstanding IRMA claims. 4 of those are some workers' compensation claims, which actually, several of those have been ongoing for a couple of years, but are nearing closure. There are 2 trip and fall claims that happened last year that were just recently brought to the village, but those are being handled, again, by IRMA appointed attorneys. But other than that, I don't think there's too many other IRMA claims outstanding. So that's sort of a high-level overview. I mean, any questions? I don't know if Dave or Michael have anything else to add.
No, I think you did a good job, Hannah. I think just to add to this, I mean, the communication with, from ICRMT and Mesro has been really good. They've been at a number of our staff meetings. The training, again, in both Mesro and the pool have been involved with this, I think has been really good. It's no secret, when this decision made last year, I think the staff had 2 concerns from a financial point of view. One, that the premium cost was slightly higher, and 2, the larger concern was the big difference in deductibles. Obviously, we haven't had any large claims, so that issue hasn't arisen yet. And that's obviously the big thing we're watching for, and I think we're doing, I think, a lot more training and obviously trying to make sure that we can hopefully avoid as many of those incidents as possible. But again, it's still early on, but we thought because we just made a switch, we wanted to make you aware of this and give us any feedback that you'd like.
So to date, we would be saving money or losing money over IRMA? As it's
Saving.
Well, again, the premiums, when you, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, trustee Mueller, but the premiums, when you take into account the premiums and the rebates IRMA gave us, IRMA was cheaper, and IRMA would be much cheaper if there was deductibles, the big deductibles that were triggered, and that hasn't happened yet. So I think, again, as we explained last year, there could be years when the difference, IRMA might be slightly lower, and there could be some years when IRMA is going to be significantly lower if there's 1 or 2 big claims. And so we haven't had that. So.
And then Pat and Hannah, I assume you're working with them on a daily basis. How have they been?
Yeah,
Definitely one of the concerns that was brought up.
Very proactive, coming out, talking safety. As Hannah mentioned, seminars that they've offered us, and just probably weekly communication with them on things. So they've been very proactive with everything.
And I work with their adjusters daily too, emailing information back and forth and whatnot, or working through our claims portal, and they've always been, any questions or anything, they're willing to work through it. Again, going after subrogation, trying to recoup any costs we can get, they've gotten several subrogation costs back for us, so.
Yeah, I saw that. I love the reports, and they're great. I love that we could use, our own attorneys and have choices. They're self-insured. I mean, it's a beautiful win-win. This is a great decision. Thanks, you guys.
And then I think it never sat right with me, the IRMA kind of 3-year, or what was it, 3-year or 4-year that they said?
It's in they have a policy that's 3 years. It's not etched in stone. I mean, it is something they make, you can go back, they handle it on a case-by-case basis, and so it is something that is their policy, but it's, as I understand it, it's not.
During those meetings, they were pretty firm.
Yeah, I've had.
No, they're desperate now. Don't worry.
Yeah, Cindy, I don't ever remember it being an option, right? It
What's
was
being an option?
Of going back.
of going back. It was 3 years.
Going back
It was
to-
take it or leave it.
Oh, they were like that, yeah,
They were very
yeah.
firm.
But that's not the case. They'll take us back in a minute.
Yeah.
I
You
thought
know.
it was a group, I thought it was like their organization's rules that you.
Yeah, but we were the biggest member. I mean, Orland got rid of them like 12 years ago, maybe more. We were the big fish taking the hit. I mean, in catastrophe, we would be the ones,
There's some big claims here. We'll be taking
Yeah,
a pretty big
those are
hit.
the IRMA claims though, so
Yeah, hopefully it stays that
turned out
way.
to be an excellent move.
And do they offer a lot of healthy lifestyle, like, encouragement of employees, offering,
Yoga.
Fitbit challenges, or, I mean, things to encourage people to be healthy?
Well,
Proactive?
that's part of our health insurance plan, which we'll discuss next. And yes, I mean, we do have a wellness program through that. So that's separate from the liability and workers' comp insurance discussion.
And actually, they did come up with a new program, I forgot the name of it, it's like a pro athlete plan, back to work program for first responders, where they aggressively work with the first responders on these claims to get them back to work.
Good.
Similar to a professional athlete program.
Good. Very cool.
So again, at some point, and this doesn't have to be tonight, we probably need to have, some general direction as to, if you want to continue to look at it. It is still out there. I think it is a concern that I think long-term, the cost could be a lot higher if we get larger claims. I mean, but again, that's a direction that certainly we'd want to hear from the whole board. If they want us to look at other options, that would be up to you guys.
Well, I think we're saving money with the subrogation claims, is that how you say it? There's that, that's huge.
Anything else?
Nope. not
You're gonna
in
go
addition.
into the health insurance?
Yeah. The health, actually, we have really good news there, actually, for the second year in a row. Our medical, and again, this is an estimate, so what happens is that we get an estimate at the beginning, and then in a month from now, we'll be able to firm this up. But we're looking at about a 3.5% decrease in medical insurance. Dental's up 5.7%, but obviously the medical is the larger part of our cost. Last year, we actually had a 6.8% decrease, so this is really good news. There's
That's so good, it's really good.
It's certainly, I think it is reflective. I think, Mesero has done a good job with this. I think it's also, I think as you were alluding to, Trustee Galani, we've really established kind of solid, I think, wellness programs, and we've had some good history, and this is really good news, because this, obviously, we budget, what we budget, I think we budget, I think, I'm gonna say 7 or 8% increase, or, yeah. So, I mean, this obviously is really good news for our budget, too, so. We'll have more formal numbers in about a month or so, but I just wanted to kind of give you that update. And also for, the new folks on here, this memo does indicate, over the last couple of years, we really have done some other things to try to contain cost. One of the things we started a couple of years ago was the village did not have a deductible for employees, so we went from 0 to 500. We changed some of the out-of-pocket costs, drug payment costs, and things like that. So it is something that we've been, as all private and public businesses are starting to look now, looking at those things for cost savings, and I'm sure, we'll continue to look at it. Obviously, when we have a year like this is helpful. We don't have to, look at these other areas for savings as much, because we're seeing such good news with the rates.
Good.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No, good. Item 6, discuss the revocation of business license for Taxi Express and ARS Rescue Router. I'm going to turn this over to the village attorney.
Thank you, Trustee Duante. You have before you tonight 2 separate requests. One was generated from the police department regarding one of the village's taxi providers, the other for community development and some of our plumbing inspectors. The finance committee gets these requests. Tonight, we're not here to adjudicate the requests. You're not going to hear evidence on the requests. And essentially, this was kind of an old vestige of the village code. There used to be a licensing committee, and that's where these would go. The licensing committee at some point got folded into finance, so that's why it's on your plate tonight. What will happen is, both of these are different types of licenses. As you can imagine, for people to do business in the village, they need a license. Once the village grants that, absent some emergency or exigent circumstances, we can't just take it away willy-nilly. So everybody is entitled to their process. We've been in contact with Chief Farricelli and Sergeant St. John. We believe there's enough to go forward to have the hearing on the taxi company due to some recent events over at the amphitheater. And we've sat down with Kimberly and Paula and the inspectors in their department. Also believe there's certainly enough to move forward on a complaint hearing on rescue route. Does that necessarily mean that both licenses will be revoked? No, it does not. Oftentimes agreements are reached even before hearing, and sometimes you guys will appoint a hearing officer, and the hearing officer could feel that the evidence was short for a revocation, could issue a fine or a suspension, or find that the evidence wasn't sufficient for any of the three. So, so two things you're here for tonight: a motion to move forward with the hearing on both licenses, and then our recommendation, as we've done for all of the revocations we've been involved with, is for you to appoint the firm of Montana and Welch, who serves as the village adjudicator for all the ordinance violations and things like that. They're here, they're familiar with the process. So with that, if you guys don't have any questions, I'll give you the motions that I want. But if you guys have anything on the process, let me know.
It's two separate hearings, right?
Two separate hearings. I mean, we'll do them on the same day. We'll bring everyone in on the same day. But yeah, it'll be two separate hearings. We'll send out 2 complaints to each of the businesses separately, and they'll have their day in court. So if there's nothing else, the first motion, if I could get a motion to revoke, to move forward with the hearings to revoke, suspend or fine the license for ARS Rescue Router.
So moved.
Seconded.
And then all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And then also to appoint Montana Welsh as the hearing officer for that revocation proceeding. A motion for that.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, and then this time I'll combine them both. We'll make it easy. So okay, this time I get a motion to move forward with the hearing on the revocation, suspension, or fine of the license for
Taxi Express.
Taxi Express, and to appoint Montana and Welch as the hearing officer for those proceedings.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. And then we'll obviously report back to you with the results of those hearings.
Okay, the next item is receive comments from the public. Yeah, anybody want to address the public? Or address the board? And I guess I will make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.